The discovery. The message that changed everything arrived on a Tuesday. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the basement of the Luna Archaeological Center, her hands trembling as she held the artifact that would shatter humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The object, a sleek, obsidian-like cube, no larger than a coffee mug, pulsed with a faint blue light that seemed to respond to her touch. "Run the analysis again," she commanded the lab's AI. Her voice steadied, despite the implications of what they'd found. The holographic display flickered to life, projecting the same devastating results as the previous 12 scans. The artifact wasn't just alien in origin. It was specifically designed for human interaction. The cube contained a message, encoded in a way that suggested intimate knowledge of human neural patterns. As Sarah decoded its contents, the truth emerged like a nightmare taking shape in daylight. Humanity hadn't developed in isolation. We had been deliberately quarantined, contained, and watched. Lab rats in a cosmic experiment running for thousands of years. Above her, through layers of lunar regolith and reinforced ceramic grate, Earth hung in the black sky like a blue jewel. Sarah thought about the billions of people going about their lives, unaware that their entire history had been carefully orchestrated by beings who saw them as both fascinating and dangerous. The artifact's message was clear. Protocol 147 remains in effect. Human civilization continues to display concerning levels of adaptation and innovation. Recommend maintaining quarantine status. They must not be allowed to reach their full potential. Sarah's comm unit chimed. An incoming priority message from Mission Control. Dr. Chen, we're detecting multiple objects decelerating from FTL at the edge of the solar system. Size and energy signatures suggest artificial construction. We're about to have company. She looked at the artifact again. Its pulsing now seemed almost mocking. Humanity's isolation was ending, ready or not. But the quarantine's architects had made one crucial mistake. They'd given humans time to perfect what they did best: adapt, innovate, and overcome. As the first alien ships approached Earth orbit, Sarah sent a single message to the UN Security Council. They tried to cage a species that never evolved to accept chains. Within hours, the alien ships had taken position around Earth's major population centers. Their design defied human engineering principles. Massive crystalline structures that seemed to float in violation of known physics. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session as governments worldwide scrambled to maintain order. Sarah's discovery had given humanity one crucial advantage: knowledge. The quarantine protocol described in the artifact suggested these beings feared human potential. The question was why. Admiral James Rodriguez stood before the hastily assembled Joint Chiefs, his weathered face illuminated by holographic displays of the alien vessels. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at technology centuries beyond our current capabilities. Traditional military response would be suicide." "Then what do you suggest, Admiral?" The chairman's voice was tense. "We use what they fear against them. Their own message tells us they're terrified of human adaptation and innovation. I say we show them why." Across the globe, humanity demonstrated why it had survived ice ages, plagues, and its own destructive tendencies. Instead of panic, there was determination. Instead of surrender, there was calculation. The first contact message arrived as expected. "Representatives of Earth, your quarantine status has been revoked due to contamination. Prepare for integration into the Galactic Confederation. Resistance will result in immediate pacification." Sarah worked through the night with a team of linguists and xenobiologists, analyzing every nuance of the message. The translation was perfect, too perfect. These beings had been studying humanity for millennia, yet they still fundamentally misunderstood what made humans dangerous. It wasn't our weapons or our technology. It was our inability to accept limitations. When humanity responded, it wasn't with weapons or threats. Dr. Chen stood before the UN General Assembly, the artifact humming in her hands as she addressed not just humanity, but their would-be controllers watching from orbit. For thousands of years you watched us. You studied us. You thought you understood us. But you made a fundamental error. You assumed isolation would weaken us. Instead, it forced us to become stronger. You thought quarantine would limit us. Instead, it taught us to overcome any obstacle. You believed you were containing a threat. Instead, you created exactly what you feared. She held up the artifact, its blue pulse now steady and bright. This isn't just a message anymore. In the 12 hours since its discovery, we've already begun to understand how it works, how it bends spacetime, how it taps into quantum fields you thought we wouldn't comprehend for centuries. This is what humans do. We learn. We adapt. We evolve. The alien ships remained silent, but their formation shifted slightly, a movement that suggested uncertainty. You have two choices, Sarah continued. Treat us as equals and face what you fear, or continue to try to control us and discover why your predecessors felt the need to quarantine humanity in the first place. As she finished speaking, hundreds of similar artifacts across the globe began to activate, each one responding to human touch, each one revealing more secrets about the beings who had tried to play God with human destiny. The quarantine was over, but its architects were about to learn that some species evolved stronger in isolation, and that humanity had spent thousands of years unknowingly preparing for this exact moment. The real question wasn't whether humanity would join the galactic community. The question was whether the galactic community was ready for humanity. Diplomatic deception. The Galactic Confederation's embassy on Luna dwarfed every human structure on the satellite, its crystalline spires reaching toward Earth like accusing fingers. Inside, High Counselor Zixtol reviewed reports of human activity with growing concern. In the 3 months since first contact, humanity had already begun to unravel technological principles that should have taken centuries to comprehend. Impossible, Zixtol muttered, their bioluminescent patterns flickering with distress. They've already reversed-engineered quantum communication principles from a single artifact. Ambassador Elena Martinez sat across from the alien dignitary, carefully hiding her satisfaction behind a mask of diplomatic courtesy. We're eager students, Counselor. Surely that's not a crime under Confederation law. The alien's translucent appendages rippled. No, but the speed of advancement is concerning. The quarantine protocols existed for a reason, Ambassador. And yet here we are. Martins replied smoothly. Perhaps it's time to discuss why those protocols were implemented in the first place. Before Zixtol could respond, a junior aide burst into the chamber, their crystalline exoskeleton vibrating with urgency. High Counselor, we've detected unauthorized transmissions from Earth to the Rithar system. Martinez kept her expression neutral, but internally she smiled. Right on schedule. The Rithar, another quarantine species the humans had discovered in their rapid combing of Confederation data networks. Like humanity, they had been isolated, studied, and contained. Unlike humanity, they hadn't managed to break free. Yet, this is precisely what we feared. Zixtol rose, towering over Martinez. Your species cannot be trusted with galactic technology. You're already attempting to destabilize established orders. Martinez stood as well, her voice firm. Interesting that you'd immediately assume we're causing destabilization. Could it be that you're afraid we'll expose something? Perhaps about how many other species you've imprisoned in their own solar systems. We protect the galaxy from chaos. No, Martinez's eyes hardened. You protect your power from change. But change is coming, Counselor. Humanity isn't just going to sit quietly and accept your version of galactic order. As if to punctuate her words, every display in the embassy suddenly flickered, showing the same message in Confederation standard script. PORTOCOL 147 status failed. Containment BRECGD. Adaptation in progress. Zixtol's color patterns shifted to deep crimson. What have you done? We, Martine smiled. We're just eager students, remember. But you might want to check on your other quarantine sites. It seems your protocols aren't as secure as you thought. Across the galaxy, on dozens of worlds, ancient artifacts were awakening. Species that had been isolated for millennia were receiving their first messages from beyond their solar systems. The careful order the Confederation had maintained for eons was beginning to unravel, and humanity was just getting started. The Silent Revolution. The Rithar Collective's central hive mind nexus pulsed with newfound energy. After millennia of isolation, they were finally connecting with another species, one that understood what it meant to be caged. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the massive neural interface, marveling at how the Rithar had evolved to process information as pure energy. Where humans had developed digital technology, the Rithar had become living computers. No wonder the Confederation had feared them. Your adaptation to isolation was remarkable. The Rithar consciousness communicated directly into her mind. Where we turned inward, you reached outward. Together, we become something new. Sarah nodded, watching as human quantum computers synchronized with Rithar neural networks across spacetime. The Confederation thought isolation would weaken us. Instead, it forced us all to evolve in ways they couldn't predict. The combined human Rithar information network was already spreading to other quarantine species, the crystalline Zinfar, masters of light manipulation, the gaseous void dancers, who had learned to bend gravity, the silicon-based lithoids, who had developed technology that could reshape matter itself. Each species had adapted to their prison in unique ways. Each had developed abilities the Confederation had never anticipated. And now, humanity was bringing them all together. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, Earth's first faster-than-light vessel. Built using a combination of reverse-engineered Confederation technology and innovations born of human desperation, it represented everything the Confederation had feared. "Status report," he commanded. "Confederation fleets are mobilizing, sir," his XO reported. "They've finally realized what we're doing. They're attempting to reinforce the quarantine zones around the other species." Rodriguez smiled. Too late. How many managed to break free before they noticed? 17 species, sir, all now linked through the quantum network. The Rithar are already teaching them how to bypass Confederation control systems. The Admiral nodded. The Confederation had made a crucial mistake in their calculations. They had assumed that keeping species isolated would prevent them from combining their strengths. Instead, it had forced each species to become extraordinarily powerful in their own unique way. And humans had turned out to be the perfect catalyst. Adaptable enough to understand each species' evolution, innovative enough to find ways to combine their strengths, and determined enough to break the chains that bound them all. An alert flashed across the bridge display. The Confederation's response had arrived. A massive fleet, thousands of ships strong, emerging from faster-than-light travel. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from High Command. Operation Prometheus is go." Rodriguez straightened his uniform. This was the moment they'd been preparing for. Across the galaxy, 17 newly freed species were about to demonstrate just how much they'd evolved during their imprisonment. The Confederation had built their power on control and separation. They were about to learn what happened when the cages were opened, and the prisoners turned out to be far more than anyone had expected. Breaking chains. The Confederation fleet hung in space like a metallic storm cloud, their weapons primed, and targeting systems locked on the single human vessel that dared to challenge them. High Commander Vexthor's orders rang through the command network. The humans and their conspirators must be contained. The safety of the galaxy depends on it. What happened next would be remembered for millennia to come. The ESS Prometheus, seemingly alone and outgunned, initiated what appeared to be a standard faster-than-light jump sequence. The Confederation fleet's targeting computers tracked the energy buildup, preparing to follow. This was standard protocol, a chase that had played out countless times before. But humans had never been good at following standard protocols. Instead of jumping to light speed, the Prometheus unleashed its true purpose. The ship's quantum core, designed in collaboration with the Rithar, pulsed with impossible energy. Throughout the Confederation fleet, every targeting system suddenly displayed the same message. Thank you for connecting to the Liberation Network. Admiral Rodriguez's voice echoed through every ship in the Confederation fleet. You built your empire on control. You forgot that every system of control can be turned against its masters. The Confederation crews watched in horror as their own ships began responding to commands they hadn't given. The Rithar's neural interface technology, combined with human coding expertise, had turned their entire fleet into a networked vulnerability. But this was just the beginning. Spatial distortions erupted around the fleet as the Void Dancers emerged from their gravity wells, their gaseous forms twisting space itself. Crystalline ships of the Zinthar appeared, bending light around Confederation vessels, creating corridors of strategic blindness. Lithoid matter shapers began transforming the very hulls of enemy ships, not destroying them, but reforming them. This isn't a battle, Rodriguez transmitted. This is a demonstration. Every species you imprisoned evolved beyond your comprehension. Humanity didn't free them. We just showed them their cages were already obsolete. High Commander Vexthor watched as centuries of Confederation control unraveled in minutes. Impossible. How did you coordinate all of this? We adapted, came the simple reply. It's what humans do. And then we helped others adapt too. You wanted to contain us. You should have tried understanding us first. The combined fleet of liberated species hung in space, not as conquerors, but as testament to evolution beyond control. The Confederation's mighty armada now floated powerless, their crews watching as their carefully maintained order transformed around them. You have a choice, Rodriguez continued. Join us in building something new, or cling to your old systems of control. But understand this, the quarantine era is over. Evolution cannot be contained. New dawn. In the Galactic Council chamber, once the seat of Confederation power, representatives of 23 species, both formerly quarantined and former Confederation members, gathered to shape the future. The old hierarchy was gone, replaced by something unprecedented. A union of equals, each bringing their unique evolutions to a greater whole. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the assembled delegates, the ancient artifact that had started it all now transformed into something new. Its blue pulse had become a symphony of colors, each representing a different species' contribution to their shared future. The Confederation believed diversity was a threat. She addressed the chamber. They saw different paths of evolution as dangers to be contained. Their fear led them to create the very power they sought to prevent. The chamber's holographic displays showed the transformation spreading across the galaxy. The Rithar's neural networks were helping species communicate in ways never before possible. The Void Dancer's gravity manipulation had revolutionized travel between stars. The Zinthar's mastery of light had opened new frontiers in energy generation. The Lithoid's matter manipulation was rebuilding worlds thought forever lost. And humanity. Humans were doing what they had always done best, adapting, learning, combining ideas in new ways, and pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. We stand here not as conquerors, Sarah continued, but as proof that evolution cannot be contained. That diversity is not a threat, but our greatest strength. The Confederation sought to preserve order through control. We will build something greater through cooperation. Ambassador Martinez, now representing Earth in the new Galactic Assembly, stood to address her fellow delegates. Let the history books record this moment not as the end of order, but as the beginning of true unity. Not as humanity's revenge, but as the dawn of genuine understanding between all species. High Counselor Zixtal, who had chosen to embrace change rather than cling to the old ways, raised their appendages in the traditional gesture of agreement. Perhaps this was the true test all along, not whether we could control evolution, but whether we could evolve beyond the need for control. Admiral Rodriguez, watching from the Prometheus, now a symbol of transformation rather than warfare, sent a final message to Earth. Mission accomplished. The chains are broken, not just for humanity, but for all. As the Assembly ratified the new Galactic Charter, the artifact in Sarah's hands pulsed one final time, its message now transformed. Protocol 147 terminated. New protocol established. Unity through diversity. The evolution continues. Across the galaxy, the lights of 1,000 worlds shone brighter, each one free to forge its own path, while contributing to something greater than themselves. The age of quarantine was over. The age of shared evolution had begun. And humanity, the species that had refused to accept its cage, had learned perhaps the greatest lesson of all. True strength lies not in standing alone, but in helping others rise alongside you. High above Earth, where this story had begun, a new generation of ships prepared to venture into the unknown. Their crews were no longer just human, but represented all the species who had chosen to share their journey. They carried with them not weapons of war, but tools of discovery, not fears of difference, but hopes for what they might learn from each other. The universe was vast, and somewhere out there, other isolated species might be waiting to join their fellowship of the free. Humanity had broken its chains, and in doing so, had helped forge something unprecedented. A galaxy where evolution was not feared, but celebrated, where difference was not a threat, but an opportunity. The greatest revenge against those who would cage you, they had learned, was not to destroy their prison, but to transform it into something beautiful. And that was just the beginning.